Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Tori. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2024. And we begin with a stage set for an epic Super Bowl 58 matchup featuring a quarterback who's never been there and one who's been on the ticket 4 of the last 5 years. Last night, 24-year-old Brock Purdy and the 49ers ended the Cinderella dreams of the Detroit Lions 34-31. Only a few years back, Brock was known as Mr. Irrelevant for being the last pick in the draft. Now he'll lead his team to the sports marquee event to face two-time Super Bowl champ Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs, who earlier yesterday pulled out a win against the Ravens. The next and final stop is Las Vegas, Nevada on February 11th. Upwards of 200 million people are expected to tune in, and advertisers are lining up to pay $7 million for a 30-second ad. Making a Super Bowl commercial comeback this year, the famous Clydesdale horses. Reports say they'll be back on the air and on the ground in Vegas. NASA's little copter that could no longer can. The space agency announced that the 4-pound whirlybird that's been checking out Mars has permanent damage to one of its rotor blades and will not be able to fly again. The helicopter is still upright and in contact with flight controllers, but its $85 million mission is now officially over. And what a mission it was! Not only did Ingenuity have a Wright brothers moment and prove that controlled flight on another planet is possible, but it exceeded all expectations. Over the past 3 years, it made 72 excursions, traveled 11 miles, which is 14 times farther than planned, reached a height of 79 feet and a speed of 22 miles an hour. As NASA's Lori Glaze told reporters, while we knew this day was inevitable, it doesn't make it any easier. While Ingenuity's flying days are over, Boeing's MAX 9s are not. The Federal Aviation Administration cleared the planes for takeoff 3 weeks after a door panel blew out at 16,000 feet. All 737 MAX 9s used by carriers in the United States were grounded and inspected. Alaska Air began flying them on Friday and United on Saturday. The pen is mightier than the keyboard, at least when it comes to learning. That's the takeaway from a study done by Norwegian researchers who strapped electrodes to the heads of university students to measure how much of their brains lit up when writing versus typing. And the findings weren't even close. Writing by hand requires more brain power because of the need to form letters, not just push a button. And the more brain used, the better, researchers say, because widespread connectivity is crucial for memory formation and encoding new information, which is just a fancy way of saying it's important for learning. The scientists note that it also explains why kids who learn to read and write on a tablet sometimes can't differentiate between B's and D's, since they didn't have to physically produce them on paper. The study is published in Frontiers in Psychology. Two 20-somethings stole the tennis show down under. On the men's side of the Australian Open, Italy's 22-year-old Yannick Sinner battled back from 2 sets down to defeat world number 3 Daniil Medvedev and win his first major title. For the women, the champion is a familiar one. 25-year-old Aryna Sabalenka of Belarus easily won the tournament for the second year in a row. California is contemplating another controversial first. One that would electronically cap the speed of your family's car. The newly introduced bill calls for all new vehicles to include a speed governor, which is a device that makes it physically impossible to go more than 10 miles an hour over a posted speed limit. How would it know? By using GPS data and/or car cameras to set limits based on where it's driving. If passed, it would apply to all cars except emergency vehicles built or sold in the state starting in 2027. Still to come, it's anchors away for a cruise ship called the biggest and baddest on the planet. But first, today's KidNuz quiz. Which 2 teams are headed to the Super Bowl? The San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Why did the Ingenuity Mars mission come to an end? The copter has a broken rotor. According to a new study, which is better for learning, writing by hand or typing? Writing by hand. California is considering adding what to cars? A device to keep cars from going more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. In today's Kid News Kicker, the largest cruise ship in the world set sail for the first time over the weekend. Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, which is nearly as long as the Empire State Building is tall, left South Florida for its first 7-day island-hopping voyage. By the numbers, it has 20 decks, carries nearly 10,000 passengers and crew, and has 6 water slides, 7 swimming pools, an ice rink, theater, and more than 40 restaurants. Before departing, the ship was officially christened by soccer legend Lionel Messi and his Inter Miami teammates. Now it's time to shout out our Kid News classroom, starting with Mrs. Hackney and her Wildcats at Weiss in Woodhaven, Michigan, Mrs. Rainey at Valley Park in Overland Park, Kansas, and Mrs. Drew and her amazing Drew crew at Bourne Intermediate in Bourne, Massachusetts. Thanks for listening. You can get ad-free episodes of Kid News by signing up for a subscription on Apple Podcasts or on most major platforms. Have a great day. We'll see you back here for more Kid News tomorrow morning.